Hey everyone, Luke here from LM6 Productions, and today I'm going to be doing a different type of video for this channel, one that I haven't really done yet, and it's going to be a tutorial video. So today I'm going to be showing you some behind the scenes work and of how I do my color correcting, color grading process for videos I make. I'm no color grading expert, but this is just a little process I go by, and it helps me get the colors how I like them to be for my videos. So if you haven't seen the short film Cabin Fever yet, go ahead and check that out. It's on Instagram, and you can find it here on YouTube as well. I'll probably link that down in the description. But if you haven't seen it, no worries. We're just going to be showing how the color grading process works today. So let's get started with that. So the color grading process, it's actually a two-step process. The first step is color correction. So color correction involves mostly just the lightness, the shadows, highlights, and making everything brightness, contrast, saturation, what you want it to look like. Whereas the color grading process is a bit more artistic. We're getting that color feel that you like for that image. So first I'm going to go over the color correcting process, show you guys how to do that, and then I'm going to jump into the color grading process after that. So let's get started with the color correcting process. So right here you see we have some of the raw footage straight out of the camera, and there's not much to it. It's really just flat and kind of boring looking. So the first thing we're going to do is correct it to where it looks it looks natural. So first thing I do is I enter coloring mode, obviously, and then I open the different scopes. We're not going to worry too much about the color scopes yet, but this one is what we're really going to be focused on for this first part. It's going to show us where our colors are and our colors, contrast, and how light the shadows and highlights are. So the first thing I do before I even start messing with that is I do the white balance. Oh, I don't want to do that. I select white balance to figure out what true white is in the image. So sometimes images can be a little either cool or warm, depending on how it was shot in camera. But this step basically just helps to fix it and shows the editing program what true white should look like. So that just fixes that and gets us all white balanced. You can see it more in some other shots, but I'll show that in a little bit. So first we're going to do that, and then next we're going to head over to our curves. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and get all of the shadows to be touching 0 and the highlights to 100. So we're going to do that by limiting the range of this. So as you can see here, when I drag the highlights up, and we're going to get it to where it almost touches. We don't want it to be like overcrowding the top and get overblown, but just right where it starts to touch. And then same thing for the bottom. We're going to get the shadows only just slightly going to be touching. So yeah, you just want to get that range right there. And as for the midtones, you want it to be between like 70 and 40. So as you can see, the blues are a little bit low here in the shadows, so you can bring those up just a little. But then you also don't want it to be, now it's looking a little too bright. So we're gonna bring it down just a little bit to give it a more balanced feel to it. But yeah, overall that's how we do it. Just gonna bring that out down, just get a little more contrast to this, don't want it. And really with this whole process, it's all about feel. So sometimes this is just a general idea of where things should be, but if it doesn't look right, then definitely do what looks right. So that's my basic correction process, and we're going to go ahead and try that again, so on something a little bit harsher. So right here you see something that's obviously underexposed. I probably should have done that better while filming, but no worries, we can still fix that here. So obviously our first step again is going to be selecting what true white is. So I'm actually going to select over this bedpost over here. Maybe not, I don't like that one too much. Maybe her dresser. So that looks like true white right there. So I like what that one did. So that gets us all color balanced out. And then now we're going to head over to our curves again. So here there's obviously, you're going to see a big difference. We try to separate the colors. So we get those, pull those over. You don't want all of them to go over the top, but just where it starts to touch the top. You don't want to do it too much because you can see we start to get some grain obviously. So just enough to where it brightens the image and it starts to touch the top. And then the bottom here looks good. Don't have to change that too much. Our midtones are looking a bit low though. They're in between like the 20 and 40 range. So let's try to bring those midtones up. I'm gonna drag those up a little bit and get that a little more flat, and then maybe pull this down. Not quite. Add some more contrast to this. And I think that's looking a bit better from what we started with right here. You know, one thing you can always do to see where you start and you're finished, you can toggle the effect bypass to see the before and after. So here's a tricky thing that sometimes can happen. Let's say you're editing a shot, but then you have the same shot again over here, and it's not looking quite right. One thing you can do is definitely, you can do it by hand again, or you can, I've just select the white balance to start it out. You can actually do something called color wheels and match. Not gonna play with the color wheels yet, but we can actually match it to something else. So we can drag this over to our first shot, which we already color corrected. A little more. We can jump over a little more. One more. Okay, so this is our color corrected one, as you can see here, and this one hasn't been corrected yet. So one thing you can do is a simple thing, it may not always work, but you can actually apply match, and sometimes, not always, it'll help to match it out. So this one's a little dark, so I might have to mess with the curves a little bit first to get the lighting to match a little more. I'm gonna do that. Give it a little more contrast. So that's looking closer. So then now we're gonna bounce back here and apply a match. And now you can see that it actually looks a lot more similar. So that can help when you have more than one thing that look like they need correcting. So basically, it's tedious, but you go through this whole process over all your images or all your shots, making sure this, if something's of the same shot, that it matches, but that's what you're gonna do. And you're gonna go ahead and color correct all of the shots you have, and then that's when we'll jump into the color grading process. So now that we're done with the color correcting process, we're going to jump into the color grading process. Now this is where we add more of an artistic feel to the movie. By color correcting, it gets it to look pretty natural. But for films, we don't want that all the time. We want to tell something with the color. So for this film, I'm trying to convey a sense of loneliness or isolation. So I'm going to actually use sort of a bluish tint to it to make the coolness and like the coldness of the scenery come out. So the way I'm going to do that, I'll show you guys. There's two ways you can do it. One, you could actually go in and edit the colors manually. I'll show you an easier way to do it, and one way so you don't have to go edit the color on each clip individually. So you're going to go over here and add an adjustment layer. So you're going to make sure all those settings are good. So then over here in your media bin, you're going to drag that adjustment layer onto the timeline, and then drag it over the entire duration of the film. So now this adjustment layer will adjust everything under it, so there's no need to go edit each individual one like we did before with the color corrections. Now you can't just use an adjustment layer for the color corrections because each clip has different needs as far as exposure and the brightness and all that. But with color, we're trying to get the same color for the entire project. So once you add your adjustment layer, you're going to go over to the color tabs again and go to the creative tab. Here we're going to, you could do this manually like I said, you can give it a greenish feel or whatnot, and just mess with all these different things. But one thing easy way that I usually go about this is selecting a basic look to go off of. So I mean, you can go with like a super dramatic one, there's different looks to it. For this film, I went with SL Iron HDR, which gives it a really blue look. So I like this cool blue look for the film. Oops, I didn't mean to do that actually. I didn't want to add it to here. don't make the same mistake as me, don't add it to these. Add it to your adjustment layer. So I'm going to add SL Iron HDR. So now you can see the look has been added to the entire project. But one thing is I actually don't like how dramatic it's looking. I mean, you can see everything looks just too blue. So one thing I generally do is I bring down the intensity of it. So I'll take it down to 50%, maybe even 45. Just to still preserve some of the normal work and make it not look so dramatic, but still give it that artistic color that we're looking for. So now you can see the whole film sort of has that cooler look that we're looking for. So yeah, that's basically it. It's not too hard. One thing you're gonna have to watch out for is make sure your colors just don't get too weird. Like I said, this look definitely changes the saturation, the contrast. So, I mean, like here, it kind of messed up some of the color editing that we did in the previous one. As you can see, the things aren't quite touching all the way, and the shape isn't the same as it was before. So you might have to play with the colors again to, bring out the right colors you want. Fix some of the midtones and all that, depending on what the color correction did. But you just have to play with that by eye. So this is where the other tools come into play as well. You can see how much of each color is going on in each space, and then these two actually are helpful because it shows which way the color is pulling, as far as which way your colors are pulling. So like in let's pull to this clip. You can see right here our colors are pulling really far to the blue. So it might be too blue for your taste, actually, in some ways. So this is where you can actually go edit. There's a few ways you can do it. You can edit the blue curve, and pull it back to different colors. An easier way I find actually is going to the color wheels and just messing with this. Some tricks I try to find with the color wheels, you want your highlights to match the scenery. So we want some cooler highlights to match the coolness of the room. Maybe want the shadows a little bit to pull it back out of the blue. So yeah, you just have to play with all that to get the feel you want from your clip. But these tools just help you see where your colors are. Your screen may not be color accurate, but it helps you to get a better idea of what your final output's going to look like. But yeah, that's basically what the color editing or color correcting and then color grading process looks like. So you might have to go back through and edit some clips just to make sure they still look good after the fact. But once you do your basic corrections, it's a lot easier. So I want to thank you guys for checking out the video today. This is definitely a first for me, so I'm just still getting the hang of the whole tutorial style video. But if you want to see more, let me know down in the comments. Definitely like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And if you haven't yet, go check out the short film Cabin Fever. I'll link it down in the description and at the end of the video. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'll definitely be working on some new ones soon, and maybe I'll do some more behind the scenes stuff on how I get those videos done. So definitely go check it out. It's on Instagram and on YouTube as well. But yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys later.